I'm Evelyn, 28, and 5 years ago, my parents kicked me out of their house the same day they celebrated my sister Amanda getting her first real job. They always favored her the golden child, while I was just the tech geek they tolerated. The irony. Today, I'm the CEO of Tech Solutions, the very company my sister just got hired at. She has no idea she'll be working for me. Before I tell you how I went from homeless to CEO, while my perfect sister became my intern, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and subscribe to hear more stories about success against all odds. Growing up in suburban Chicago, our family dynamics were crystal clear. My father Thomas ran a small electronics repair shop that had been moderately successful since before I was born. My mother Linda worked part-time as a receptionist, but primarily managed our household. From the beginning, the differences between my sister Amanda and me were treated not just as differences, but as a hierarchy of worth. Amanda, younger than me by 2 years, was everything our parents seemed to value. She was naturally pretty with her perfect blonde hair and bright blue eyes that matched our mother's. She made friends effortlessly, captained the soccer team, and always knew exactly what to say to make adults smile. She was the daughter they proudly introduced at family gatherings, the one whose school photos dominated our living room walls. I was the opposite, introverted and awkward in social situations. I found refuge in technology from a young age. While Amanda collected trophies for athletics, I was dismantling computers and rebuilding them with improvements by age 12. My bedroom was a tangle of wires, circuit boards, and notebooks filled with code rather than the posters of boy bands and actors that covered Amanda's walls. The disparity in how we were treated was constant, but subtle enough that complaining about it would have made me seem petty. Amanda got the bigger bedroom with the bay window. She received new clothes while I got hand-me-downs, despite being the older sister. My parents never missed her soccer games or dance recitals, but my academic achievements were treated as expected rather than celebrated. "Evelyn's just playing on her computer again," my father would say dismissively when relatives asked what I was up to. He never understood that I was teaching myself Python or building applications that some of my classmates were already using for study groups. During high school, I developed a scheduling app that helped students organize their assignments. It became popular enough that a local news station did a small feature on it. My parents watched the segment with mild interest, but changed the subject when our neighbor called to congratulate them on raising such a bright daughter. When I was 16, I entered a statewide coding competition. After months of preparation, I developed an inventory tracking system that won first place. The ceremony was on the same day as Amanda's regional soccer championship. My parents didn't even hesitate to choose her event over mine. I received my award with no family in the audience, watching other winners hug their proud parents afterward. "We knew you'd win anyway," my mother said later, as if my success was so certain it didn't require acknowledgement. Meanwhile, Amanda's team placed third, and our parents took the entire team out for ice cream to celebrate. College widened the gap further. I earned a partial scholarship to study computer science at the University of Illinois. Even with the scholarship, money was tight, so I continued helping at my father's shop during breaks and weekends, upgrading their ancient systems and manually transferring their paper records to digital files during my free time. During my junior year, I noticed my father's business was struggling to compete with newer electronic stores. I developed a comprehensive inventory management system specifically designed for small repair shops like his. It would track parts customer repairs and even generate automatic reorder notices when supplies ran low. "Dad, this could save you hours of paperwork every week," I explained, showing him the system I'd spent months perfecting. He glanced at it briefly. "We've been doing fine with our system for 20 years, Evelyn. Not everything needs to be computerized." The next day, I overheard him complaining to my mother about his declining sales and increasing competition. Yet he still refused to consider my solution. I graduated with honors in computer science, but my graduation party was a simple dinner at home. 3 months later, when Amanda dropped out of community college after just 3 semesters, my parents consoled her by saying, "College isn't for everyone, sweetheart. You're meant for greater things." The contrast couldn't have been clearer. My academic achievements were expected and unremarkable. Amanda's failure was reframed as a stepping stone to her undiscovered brilliance. After graduation, I moved back home temporarily. while working remotely for a small tech startup. The pay wasn't great, but it gave me experience while I developed my own software on the side. I paid rent to my parents and kept to myself, often coding late into the night when everyone else was asleep. Meanwhile, Amanda seemed to drift. She tried waitressing for a few weeks before quitting because the manager was a jerk. She briefly worked at a clothing store until she got bored with folding sweaters. Each time our parents were understanding and supportive. "You just haven't found your passion yet," my mother would tell her while in the same conversation asking me when I was going to get a real job, despite the fact that I was earning a steady income. During this time, I was secretly working on something revolutionary. The inventory system my father had rejected had given me an idea for a more comprehensive business management solution designed specifically for small to medium enterprises. I was coding a platform that could integrate inventory, customer relationships, marketing, and financial tracking all in one customizable package. Most existing solutions were either too expensive or too complex for smaller businesses, and I knew there was a market gap. I was 6 months into development when Amanda burst into the house one evening, practically glowing with excitement. "I got a job," she announced to our parents, who were watching TV in the living room. I was at the dining room table with my laptop, but looked up at her announcement. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom exclaimed. "Where?" "Verdi-Tech Solutions," Amanda said proudly. "It's this amazing tech company downtown. I'll be starting in their customer relations department next week." I nearly choked on my water. Verdi-Tech Solutions was one of the fastest-growing tech firms in the city. They were known for innovative software solutions and had been featured in several business magazines recently. Getting hired there was no small achievement, especially for someone with Amanda's limited work history. "This calls for a celebration," my father declared, immediately turning off the TV. "Let's go out to dinner. Anywhere you want, Amanda." Within minutes, they were calling relatives, telling everyone about Amanda's amazing new job opportunity. My mother was already planning to take her shopping for professional clothes over the weekend. That evening at the celebration dinner, I sat quietly as my parents and sister discussed her bright future at Verdi-Tech. "I don't really understand what they do," Amanda admitted between bites of her expensive steak. "But they said I have great people skills and that's what they need for customer relations." "Of course you do," my father beamed. "You've always been a people person." "Not like some people who only know how to talk to computers," my mother added with a pointed glance in my direction. I pushed my food around my plate. "Technical skills are valuable too," I said quietly. "The tech industry pays well because those skills are in demand." My father scoffed. "There's more to life than sitting behind a computer all day, Evelyn. Amanda will be working with real people, making real connections." "And making real money," Amanda added with a smirk. "The starting salary is amazing." "At least one of our daughters is making something of herself," my father said, raising his wine glass in a toast to Amanda. The comment stung more than it should have. I'd been supporting myself, paying rent, and building something I believed in. But in their eyes, none of that counted as making something of myself. "I am doing something with my life," I said, feeling a rare surge of defensiveness. "Just because you don't understand my work doesn't mean it's not valuable." My father put his glass down firmly. "Evelyn, you've been out of college for over a year. And what do you have to show for it? You're still living at home, still staring at that laptop all hours of the day and night." "I pay rent," I reminded him, "and I'm building something important." "Building what, more computer games?" he asked dismissively. "It's business software, Dad. I've explained this." My mother touched my arm. "Honey, we just want you to try harder. Look at Amanda. She went out there and found a real opportunity. Maybe you could try to be more like your sister." Amanda was watching our exchange with barely concealed satisfaction. She had always thrived on being the favorite, and this was just another confirmation. "You know, Evelyn," my father said, his voice taking on that tone that indicated he'd made a decision, "maybe it's time you got a real job too. We've been patient, but your mother and I have been talking. If you're not going to take your future seriously, maybe it's time you found your own place." I stared at him, stunned. "Are you kicking me out because Amanda got a job?" "We're not kicking you out," my mother said quickly, though her eyes said otherwise. "We're just suggesting that it might be time for you to be more independent." "Like Amanda," my father added. "I pay rent," I repeated. "I contribute to the household." "It's not about money," my father insisted, though I suspected it partially was. It's about direction. Purpose. Amanda's moving up in the world. What are you doing besides taking up space? The words hit like physical blows. Taking up space. That's all I was to them. Space that could be better used by someone else. Someone like Amanda. I stood up, unable to stomach any more of the celebration. Congratulations on your job, Amanda. Excuse me. That night, I packed my belongings. No one came to my room to stop me or to apologize. No one asked me to reconsider. It was as if they had been waiting for an excuse to suggest I leave, and Amanda's success had given them the perfect opportunity to compare and find me wanting. I left with my laptop, my code, and a duffel bag of clothes. Nothing else seemed important. The first week after being kicked out was the hardest. I slept in my car, a 10-year-old Honda Civic that was reliable, but hardly comfortable for overnight stays. I maintained my remote work using coffee shop Wi-Fi during the day and parking near residential areas with open networks at night. I kept a gym membership active solely for the showers and occasional respite from my car. Nobody at my remote job knew I was homeless. I maintained a professional appearance during video calls using virtual backgrounds to hide my reality. I worked harder than ever, determined not to lose the only stable element in my suddenly chaotic life. On my 5th day of homelessness, I discovered a small independent coffee shop called Bean There. Unlike the chain stores with their 2-hour Wi-Fi limits, this place was quiet and stayed open until midnight. The owner, Sam, was a former tech professional who had burned out and chosen a simpler life. "You're here from open to close almost every day," Sam observed after my 3rd consecutive day camped at the same corner table. "Job hunting, working remotely," I explained, "and developing my own software on the side." Something in my expression must have revealed more than I intended, because Sam's next question caught me off guard. "Where are you staying?" I hesitated long enough for Sam to understand. "I have a small room above the shop," Sam said casually. "Used to be storage, but it has a window and enough space for a bed. It's yours if you need it. Rent can be helping around the shop when you're not working." I nearly cried from the unexpected kindness. The room was tiny indeed, but it had an outlet, a small window, and enough space for a twin mattress. Most importantly, it wasn't my car. In that tiny room, I threw myself into completing my software. During the day, I maintained my remote job. At night, I refined my business management platform until it was better than anything comparable on the market. Sam became more than a landlord, a mentor and friend who provided both practical advice and emotional support. One evening after closing the coffee shop together, Sam asked to see what I'd been working on so intensely. "This is impressive," Sam said after I demonstrated the platform. "Have you thought about taking this to investors?" I hadn't. In my mind, I was still just a programmer who'd been kicked out by her family, not an entrepreneur with a marketable product. "I wouldn't know where to start," I admitted. "I might," Sam replied, "but first reach out to your old professors. Academic connections can open doors." Following this advice, I contacted my favorite computer science professor. She remembered my work and agreed to review my software. After a thorough evaluation, she was enthusiastic. "This has real potential, Evelyn. Let me introduce you to someone." That someone was Jessica Wong, an angel investor who specialized in tech startups. The meeting was arranged at her downtown office, an intimidating glass and steel building that made me acutely aware of my limited wardrobe and precarious living situation. Jessica was direct and no nonsense. "Show me what you've built," she said, skipping the small talk. For the next hour, I demonstrated every feature of my platform, explaining the market gap it addressed and the scalability of the solution. I showed her prototype tests with 3 small businesses that had agreed to try it. "The code is solid," Jessica acknowledged after her technical team reviewed it. "But you're young, no business experience. Why should I invest in you rather than an established entrepreneur who could take this same idea and run with it?" It was a fair question. I had nothing on paper that would inspire confidence in my business acumen. "Because no established entrepreneur would have built this," I answered. "They would have built something more complex, more expensive, designed for larger enterprises because that's where the big money is. I built this for the businesses like my father's shop, who get overlooked by tech solutions because they're too small to be profitable customers for the big players." Something in my answer resonated with her. After several more meetings and due diligence, Jessica offered me initial seed funding of $500,000 in exchange for a 25% stake in what would become Vertitech Solutions. The first months of building my company were exhausting. I moved from Sam's tiny room to a small apartment closer to the modest office space I leased. I slept on an air mattress, pouring every available dollar into the business. My first 3 employees were a study in faith and fortunate connections. Miguel, a brilliant programmer I'd known in college, Raj, a marketing specialist Jessica recommended, and Taylor, a customer relations expert who had worked with small businesses before. Together, we refined the platform, built a marketing strategy, and began reaching out to potential clients. Our breakthrough came 6 months in, when a regional association of auto repair shops signed on to use our system. The testimonials from that first major client brought in more business, and suddenly we weren't just a startup with potential. We were a growing company with proven results. 4 years passed in a whirlwind of growth and challenges. We expanded from our initial 4 employees to a team of over 150. We moved from our modest first office to a proper headquarters in downtown Chicago. Our client base grew from local small businesses to a nationwide network of enterprises spanning various industries. I evolved too. The shy, introverted programmer gradually learned to lead, to speak confidently in front of groups, to make decisions that affected dozens of employees and thousands of clients. I wasn't just writing code anymore. I was shaping a company culture and a business strategy. Through all this growth and change, I maintained no contact with my family. In the early days, it was too painful to reach out. Later, as success came, a stubborn pride kept me from making that first move. They had made their choice clear when they celebrated Amanda and discarded me. Let them continue believing I was wasting my potential. Vertitech Solutions had grown beyond my initial expectations. Our business management platform had evolved into a suite of products serving various industry needs. With growth came new challenges, including the need to continually bring fresh talent into the company. We should establish an internship program, suggested our HR director during a quarterly planning meeting. It would create a pipeline of talent familiar with our products and culture. I approved the initiative without much personal involvement. As CEO, my focus was on strategic partnerships and product development, not entry-level hiring. The HR team handled recruitment, and I typically only reviewed final selections for department heads and specialized technical roles. 3 months after approving the internship program, I received the standard briefing email with the list of 20 new interns joining various departments. Scanning the names absently while preparing for another meeting, I froze when I saw it: Amanda Brooks, Customer Relations Intern. It couldn't be coincidence. Brooks was our last name, and customer relations aligned perfectly with the job Amanda had been so proud to announce 5 years ago, the very announcement that had preceded my removal from the family home. "Can you pull the application file for Amanda Brooks?" I asked my assistant. The file confirmed my suspicions. It was definitely my sister, though her application made no mention of any family connection to me. Her work history showed she had bounced between several companies over the past 5 years, never staying more than a year at any position. Vertitech Solutions was clearly just her latest attempt to find stability. The most surprising revelation: she had no idea whose company she was joining. In the year since our family split, I had deliberately maintained a low public profile, rarely appearing in press about the company. Our marketing focused on the products rather than the founder. Few outside the industry would connect CEO E. Brooks with Evelyn Brooks. I faced an ethical dilemma. Should I reject her application based on our personal history that seemed unprofessional and potentially open the company to accusations of unfair hiring practices? Should I recuse myself and let her supervisor know about our relationship? That would create unnecessary complications and gossip. After consideration, I decided to allow the internship to proceed normally. Amanda would have to earn her position like any other intern, and I would maintain professional distance until circumstances forced a revelation. The decision left me with complex emotions. Part of me felt vindicated. The sister who had been celebrated while I was discarded was now seeking employment at my company. Another part dreaded the inevitable confrontation when she discovered the truth. I spent the week before the new intern orientation preparing mentally for the encounter. I rehearsed various scenarios, determined to maintain composure regardless of Amanda's reaction. By coincidence or cosmic humor, the first day of the intern program coincided with our quarterly all-hands company meeting. New interns would attend as their introduction to company culture after completing morning orientation. Through discreet observation via security cameras, I watched Amanda's first day. She still carried herself with the same confidence I remembered, though she looked older, more polished in her business attire. She smiled and chatted easily with other interns during their tour of the facilities. She didn't recognize me at a distance, which wasn't surprising. The Evelyn she knew wore oversized hoodies and rarely styled her hair. CEO Evelyn, dressed in tailored suits, maintained a professional appearance and carried herself with authority. The all-hands meeting began at 2:00 p.m. in our largest conference room. As was tradition, department heads presented updates first, followed by recognition of exceptional employees, and concluding with my address on company vision and upcoming initiatives. When my turn came, I approached the podium with practiced confidence, scanning the room as I always did to connect with my team. In the section reserved for new interns, I spotted Amanda. Her expression shifted from polite attention to confusion as she studied my face, trying to place why the CEO looked familiar. I delivered my prepared remarks about our record growth quarter and exciting developments on the horizon. Throughout the 20-minute speech, I watched recognition slowly dawn on Amanda's face, followed by disbelief, then shock, as she finally understood who was addressing the company. After the meeting, tradition dictated that new interns would be formally introduced to the executive team. They lined up and one by one shook hands with each department head, and finally with me as CEO. When Amanda reached me, her face had lost all color. Her hand trembled slightly as she extended it. "Amanda Brooks," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's an honor to join Vertitech Solutions." I took her hand, firmly maintaining my professional demeanor, despite the emotional storm beneath the surface. "Evelyn Brooks," I replied evenly. "Welcome to the company." Her eyes widened at my public acknowledgement of our shared name. "I believe we have some history," I continued quietly, so only she could hear. "Perhaps we should discuss it privately after this event." She nodded mutely, still processing the revelation. "Hi, new intern," I added with the slightest smile, unable to resist the small moment of satisfaction. "I look forward to seeing your contributions to our customer relations department." After the event concluded, I instructed my assistant to bring Amanda to my office. I used the 15 minutes before her arrival to compose myself, remembering Sam's advice from years ago: never make business decisions in an emotional state. When Amanda entered, she looked nothing like the confident young woman who had smugly announced her job 5 years ago. Her expression cycled rapidly between shock, embarrassment, and something that looked surprisingly like remorse. "Please sit." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. She sat stiffly, clutching her orientation folder like a shield. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "I had no idea," she finally said. "The CEO's full name wasn't mentioned in any of the materials I received." "That's by design," I explained. "I prefer our products to be the focus of attention, not me." Amanda shook her head slightly, still struggling to reconcile the sister she remembered with the executive before her. "So all this time when Mom and Dad thought you were failing, struggling, wasting my potential," I supplied. "Yes, I was actually building this company from nothing, the company you now work for." My words weren't intentionally harsh, but Amanda flinched nonetheless. "Things got really bad after you left," she said quietly. "Dad's business finally failed about 2 years ago. The repair shop couldn't compete with the big electronics chains. They had to sell the house and downsize to an apartment." I hadn't known this, but I maintained my neutral expression. "I'm sorry to hear that. Truly." "They never talk about you," Amanda continued. "When relatives ask, they change the subject. It's like you stopped existing the day you walked out." "I didn't walk out, Amanda. I was told to leave. There's a difference." She looked down at her hands. "I know. I was there. I was part of it." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. 5 years of absence stretched between us like an unbridgeable gap. "My job at Vertitech," she finally said. "The one I got 5 years ago. I was let go during the first month. Couldn't handle the technical aspects of customer support. After that, I couldn't keep a job for more than a year. Nothing seemed to fit. This revelation surprised me. The way my parents had celebrated her achievement, I had assumed Amanda had continued her upward trajectory while I rebuilt my life. They don't know, she admitted, seeing my expression. I tell them everything's fine. They think I've been advancing in my career all this time. So they still believe I'm the failure and you're the success story. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. They've regretted what happened. Mom cries sometimes when she thinks no one is watching. Dad threw himself into trying to save his business until there was nothing left to save. I wasn't ready for the complexity of emotions her words stirred up. Part of me wanted to say they deserved their regrets, but another part recognized the pain in Amanda's face as genuine. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I need this job," she admitted. "And because I'm sorry, Evelyn. I was awful to you. I enjoyed being the favorite and I never stood up for you." I studied my sister, trying to determine if her regret was sincere or merely a calculation based on her current circumstances. "Are you expecting special treatment because we're sisters?" I asked directly. "No, yes, I don't know," Amanda stammered. "I just thought you should know how things have been, how much they regret what happened." "Their regret doesn't change what happened," I replied. "And it won't change how I run my company. You'll be evaluated on your merits just like every other intern. No favoritism, no punishment for our history." "That's fair," she agreed, though her expression suggested she'd hoped for more. "What is real success, Amanda?" I asked suddenly. "Is it appearances making parents proud? Or is it building something meaningful, something that helps others and provides value?" The question caught her off guard. "I don't know anymore. For so long I thought it was making Mom and Dad proud, being the daughter they wanted, but that didn't make me happy or successful. I had to define success on my own terms," I told her, "without their approval or validation. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary." Amanda wiped away a tear. "What happens now? Now you go back to orientation. You do your job. You earn your place here just like I had to earn mine in this industry. No shortcuts, no nepotism." She nodded slowly. "And us? Are we anything to each other now?" It was a complicated question with no simple answer. "We're professional colleagues first," I said firmly. "Anything beyond that will take time." As Amanda left my office, I remained seated processing the unexpected encounter. The vindication I had anticipated felt hollow in the face of her revelations about our parents. That evening, Sam called as we did every week. After telling the whole story, I waited for advice. "What are you going to do about your parents?" Sam asked. "Nothing," I responded automatically. "They made their choice. Did they make a mistake they now regret? Does it matter? The damage is done." Sam was quiet for a moment. "Holding on to hurt doesn't punish them, Evelyn. It only punishes you." The words resonated more than I wanted to admit. 5 years of silence suddenly seemed less like strength and more like fear. Fear of confronting the pain, fear of allowing the possibility of both reconciliation and rejection. "Maybe it's time they saw the truth rather than believing what they assume," Sam suggested. "Not for their sake, but for yours." After our call, I made a decision. It was time to end the silence, not with an olive branch, but with the truth. I arranged a dinner at an upscale restaurant near our office-neutral territory for what would inevitably be a tense encounter. Through Amanda, I extended the invitation to our parents, telling them only that their daughter's boss wanted to meet them. Amanda reported that they were reluctant but curious about her new employment. They had no idea what awaited them. I arrived early, securing a private dining area that would allow for the privacy this conversation required. I chose my outfit carefully, professional but not intimidating, successful without being ostentatious. When they entered the restaurant, I watched from my seat as the host directed them to our table. My father looked older than I remembered, his shoulders slightly stooped, his hair now more gray than brown. My mother had aged 2 new lines around her eyes and mouth that hadn't been there 5 years ago. The moment of recognition was almost cinematic. My mother saw me first, stopping mid-stride, her hand flying to her mouth. My father nearly bumped into her, then followed her gaze. His expression shifted from confusion to shock to an immediate defensive posture. "Evelyn," my mother's voice was barely audible. "Hello, Mom, Dad." I remained seated, gesturing to the chairs across from me. "Please join me." They sat mechanically, still processing my presence. Amanda arrived moments later, taking the fourth chair with obvious discomfort. "You planned this?" my father asked Amanda accusingly. "No," I answered before she could. "I did." Amanda had no idea I owned Vertitech Solutions until she saw me at the company meeting yesterday. "You own—" my father began, then stopped, looking around at the expensive restaurant as if seeing it in a new light. "I'm the founder and CEO," I confirmed. "I built Vertitech from nothing after I left home. Or rather, after I was told to leave." The accusation hung in the air. My father's face hardened. "You chose to leave," he said. "We never forced you out. Really, get a real job or get out wasn't forcing me out." I kept my voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface. "We were trying to motivate you," my mother interjected, her voice pleading. "We just wanted you to reach your potential. By comparing me to Amanda, by celebrating her job while dismissing everything I was working on." My father's jaw tightened. "You were always on that computer. How were we supposed to know you were doing something worthwhile?" "You could have asked," I replied. "You could have shown interest instead of dismissing my work as playing on computers." The waiter arrived to take our orders, creating a brief respite from the tension. After he left, I opened my bag and removed several items, placing them on the table. "Chicago Business Journal last year," I said, sliding the magazine toward them. My picture was on the cover under the headline, "30 Under 30, Tech Innovators Changing the Industry." I placed more articles beside it, features from tech publications, business analyses of Vertitech's growth, and finally our company's most recent financial statement. Vertitech Solutions employs over 150 people. We serve more than 2,000 businesses nationwide. Our management platform has won industry awards for innovation and accessibility. I stated these facts without emotion, watching as they registered on my parents' faces. My father picked up the financial statement, his eyes widening at the numbers. As a small business owner, he understood exactly what they meant. "You did all this?" he asked, a note of disbelief still in his voice. "I did. Without support, without encouragement, without anyone believing in me except myself, and a few key people I met along the way." My mother was crying silently now, tears tracking down her cheeks. "Why didn't you tell us all this time?" "Would you have believed me if I had tried?" I asked. "Or would you have assumed I was exaggerating, making excuses?" My father set down the documents, his expression difficult to read. There was pride there, but also regret, and something that looked like embarrassment. "We made a mistake." He finally admitted, the words clearly difficult for him. "We didn't see what you were capable of." "No," I agreed. "You didn't?" "Your sister told us your company is very successful," my mother said hesitantly. "She said you've built something important." "I have," I confirmed, "the kind of business management software that could have saved Dad's shop, ironically." My father flinched at that. "The shop's gone now. Couldn't compete with the big chains." "I know. Amanda told me." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Years of separation and hurt couldn't be bridged in a single conversation. "We're not doing well," my father finally admitted, the words clearly costing him his pride. "The apartment is small. Your mother had to go back to full-time work. I've been doing odd repair jobs when I can get them." I nodded, unsure how to respond. Part of me felt they were experiencing the natural consequences of their choices. Another part remembered they were still my parents despite everything. "I won't offer financial support," I said directly. "That's not why I arranged this meeting." "We wouldn't accept it anyway," my father replied, a flash of his old pride showing through. "But I would be willing to consult on your business situation," I continued. "Help you identify opportunities for a new venture, perhaps, if you're interested." It was a professional offer rather than a personal one, and we all recognized it as such. A starting point, nothing more. "We'd appreciate that," my mother said quickly before my father could respond. The rest of the dinner progressed with cautious conversation. We discussed safe topics, the city's changes over the past 5 years, Amanda's new position, neutral memories from earlier times. Nothing too deep, nothing too raw. As we prepared to leave, my mother hugged me tentatively. I allowed it, but didn't fully return the embrace. "We're proud of you," she whispered. "I know that doesn't change anything, but we are." My father simply shook my hand, his expression a complex mixture of emotions. After they left, Amanda lingered. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for meeting them, for not humiliating them even though you could have. That was never my intention," I assured her. "Will you stay in contact now?" she asked. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Some wounds take more than one dinner to heal." Later that week, Amanda called to tell me that our parents had been deeply affected by the meeting. "Dad actually admitted he was wrong," she said, amazement clear in her voice. "I've never heard him say that before." The revelation left me with conflicted feelings. The validation of their recognition was real, but it was mixed with lingering hurt and a sense that their acknowledgement came too late to undo the damage of their earlier dismissal. I decided to maintain professional boundaries with Amanda at work, while establishing careful limits with my parents moving forward. Healing would require time and consistent effort from all sides. 6 months passed since that first tense family dinner. In that time, unexpected changes unfolded in ways I couldn't have predicted. Amanda surprised everyone, especially me, by proving herself a capable and dedicated intern. Rather than expecting special treatment, she worked harder than most, staying late and volunteering for challenging assignments. Her supervisor, unaware of our relationship, recommended her for a permanent position when her internship concluded. "You've earned it," I told her when she asked if I had influenced the decision. "I had nothing to do with it." The pride in her eyes was genuine, perhaps the first time she'd experienced success that came entirely from her own efforts rather than our parents' favoritism. My relationship with our parents evolved cautiously. My father, swallowing decades of pride, began seeking my business advice. What started as formal consultations about potential new ventures gradually expanded to include discussions about technology trends and market opportunities. "I should have listened when you tried to help with the shop," he admitted during one of our meetings. "You saw what was coming in the industry before I could." My mother made efforts to connect through weekly calls, awkward at first, but slowly finding a rhythm. She still occasionally slipped into comparing Amanda and me, but caught herself more quickly each time. 3 months after our reunion, I accepted an invitation to dinner at their apartment. It was small but tidy, nothing like the house I'd grown up in. The change in their circumstances was evident in everything from the secondhand furniture to the careful portioning of the meal. During that dinner, my father did something unprecedented. Looking me directly in the eyes, he said simply, "I was wrong about you, Evelyn. Not just about your potential, but about who you are. I'm sorry it took losing everything for me to see it." His words didn't immediately heal the past, but they opened a door that had long been closed between us. My own journey of healing continued in parallel with these family developments. The validation of success had addressed some wounds, but others required deeper work. I established a mentorship program at Vertitech, specifically designed to identify and support overlooked tech talent, young people whose brilliance might be dismissed or undervalued by those around them. Working with these mentees helped me transform my own painful experiences into something constructive. In one particularly meaningful meeting with Jessica Wong, my original investor, who had become a trusted advisor, I shared the full story of my family history and recent reconciliation efforts. "You've done something remarkable," she observed. "Not just building this company, but finding a way to make peace with your past without letting it define your future." Sam remained my most trusted friend and confidant throughout this period. The tiny room above the coffee shop had long been replaced by my downtown condo, but we still met weekly for coffee and perspective. The truly successful understand that achievement means little if it isn't shared with people who matter, Sam told me during one of our conversations. Not for validation, but for connection. This observation led to my deepest personal realization. Success wasn't just about proving my worth to those who had doubted me. Real success included the ability to build meaningful relationships, to create opportunities for others, and to find peace with my own journey. I recognized that healing family wounds would be a process, not an event. Some days brought progress, others setbacks. There were still moments when old hurts resurfaced, when a careless comment from my mother or an assumption from my father would trigger memories of being the less favored child. But I was establishing boundaries that protected my well-being while allowing for the possibility of a new kind of relationship, one based on mutual respect, rather than seeking approval I had never been able to earn. One of my most meaningful decisions during this period was establishing a scholarship fund for underestimated tech students, young people with promise but without family support or traditional credentials. The first recipients included a young woman whose situation had eerily mirrored my own. In my final meeting with Amanda, before she transitioned from intern to full employee, I acknowledged how much we had both changed. 5 years ago, I would never have believed we could work together professionally. I admitted. 5 years ago, I was a completely different person. She replied. I lived for mom and dad's approval. I defined myself by being their favorite. And now I know what it feels like to earn something on my own merit. It's terrifying, but also freeing. I recognized in her words echoes of my own journey. As I reflect on the path that led from being kicked out of my parents' home to becoming the CEO of a thriving company, I understand that sometimes the worst moments of our lives become the foundation for our greatest achievements. Being pushed out forced me to build something entirely mine, something no one could take away or dismiss. Sometimes being kicked out is the push you need to build something they can't ignore. The door that closes behind you might be the one that forces you to build your own house, or in my case, my own company. Have you ever had someone underestimate you, only to use that as motivation to succeed? What doors closed in your life that ultimately led to better opportunities? Leave a comment below sharing your story of proving someone wrong through your success. And if this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share with anyone who needs a reminder that rejection can be the first step towards something extraordinary. Thank you for listening to my journey.